Hello and welcome to the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. My name is Ben Hansen, joined by Leo Vader.
Yeah.
Janet Garcia's here.
Hey, what's up?
And Jacob Geller, special guest. Welcome back, sir.
I'm here.
He's here. He's got some funky lighting behind him, and he's here to help us unpack some good stuff. Because on this episode of the podcast, we're talking Kena, Bridge of Spirits, the game whose name I did not forget after all this time. Talking a little bit more about Deathloop, because I'm very curious to hear some more takes on that. Jacob Geller, he sent a flare somehow directly to my house and then started screaming, "You need to talk about Severed Steel. You need to talk about Severed Steel." So we'll be talking about Severed Steel. And then we're going to relax. Everyone's going to lean back, close their eyes, and I'm going to regale them with some stories from Age of Empires 4. Get ready for that, everybody. And then some great community questions in the back half of the show. Couple things first. If you're listening to this, watching this and saying, what is wrong with them? Where's the Nintendo love? Why does this crew hate Nintendo so much? We don't. Not all of us do. But we recorded this before the Nintendo Direct happened. So if you want to see our reactions to that, you can go to MinnMax's YouTube channel. We'll have streamed our reactions right now. Look, it might fall through, but right now, as of the time of this recording, the plan is for Kyle to stream that with Surreal Vasquez out of the darkness. So you can check that out.
Surreal isn't consulting on any Nintendo games.
Very shrewd of you to notice, Jacob Geller. But yeah, you can check that out on our YouTube channel. That I'm sure we'll be unpacking some of the big news from that next week if you're curious about it. But before we get to the meat and potatoes here, we should do a little segment that we've been doing at the top of the show where we take one community question, bring it to the top of the show, which does not disqualify it for being question of the week. Jacob Geller, you just need to remember this question maybe more than any others. So this is the community kickoff question, and it's one from Sean Mason. Y'all ready for a little story time? This is a tale. This is like, it's up there with Moby Dick, I think. So Sean Mason writes in, he says, "We're a few weeks into the school year, and this past week, the video game club I run started up. Naturally, a lot of Smash Brothers was played. The skill levels all varied greatly, with the exception of one 8th grader who was so much better than everyone else. It was like watching the LA Dodgers play against a middle school baseball team. He steamrolled through everyone. At first, nobody seemed to care, but then he started to trash talk this 8th grader to the point where one little 6th grader started to cry because the older student insulted him so badly. It was at this point I decided enough was enough. I told him he needed to be a better sport or else he would have to leave. He told me he needed better competition. So what did I do? I grabbed a GameCube controller and proceeded to destroy him. He didn't even manage to kill me once. After the match, when I went to go shake his hand, he huffed and puffed and ran out of the club. All the other kids were screaming with joy. So my question is, how cool am I? You're pretty cool, Sean. No, his question is, when
Beat
is
up a child.
I hope you made that child cry, Sean. Now he asks, when is the time you thought you were really good at something only to be embarrassed by someone who is much better than you?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I think that's
Smash
life.
Bros. For sure is not my first time with that happening, but, you know, and I've told this story before in places, but I played like a lot of Melee, like Smash Bros. Melee. That's like every day.
Yeah.
Every day, all the time. My brother would like run through the 64-man tournament. We would do that all the time. And I'm like, oh, I must be pretty good because of all the hours, all the time.
That's science.
No, I'm like not even as good as like, granted, everyone I know that like a lot of people I know are like really hardcore into gaming. So it's not like it's like an average gamer necessarily.
Right.
But I can't even like square up against basically anyone or even Splatoon to a degree. I do think I am aware of my levels there because one, there's ranked mode. So there you go. Two, I've like played with people that are, you know, more intensive fans. Like I've gone to like community meetups where like people are like training strats and stuff like that. So I know that there's levels to this, but even like, you know, I see the confidence of facing a student and knowing that you can take them. I guess maybe he could tell by how he played that it would be okay, but I wouldn't even really be able to do that because I'll be straight up. I definitely faced one of my students in Splatoon and
It's not good.
I did not win. They had the sauce. I don't know. You gonna make it esports? You gonna get a scholarship? it's all good to them, you know. I'm like, I'm just here to be here, but
I do love the idea.
Anyone can smoke me potentially.
I love the idea of Sean like cracking his knuckles, taking his pristine GameCube controller out of the case, and be like, "All right, sit down, 8th grader. Here we go." And then he just gets smoked. Like if I was Sean, I think I would have started crying.
I feel like he just added. He's like, "Let me just change this for."
He instantly passed out from fear. Dreamed the rest of it.
And then was drug over and given a swirly.
Before you just posted the question without the story, but also Super Smash Bros. Melee was my, because it's just, I mean, it's like every game, I feel like you can just get such a wrong notion of your skill level by playing against AI, where I would be like, I can beat a level 9. That's the highest level. I must be good at this game.
Right.
Or actually recently, like this summer, I started playing Fortnite with the boys, and you know, I'm regressing in age.
Congratulations.
And they start you off with almost entirely bots, just matches full of bots. And so I was like, am I secretly great at Fortnite?
It's diabolical.
Have I been good this whole time?
We're all nearly pro gamers. We've certainly talked about games enough. And the fact that over the last 5 years, I feel like we've all fallen for that and all had that tickle in the back of our mind of like, I think I'm really good at this game my first time out. No, you idiot. It's always bots.
I've been fooled by the bot thing multiple times, and still, when I was playing Splitgate for the first few hours, I was like, you know, maybe all my gaming experiences have culminated in training me to be the ultimate Splitgate player, you know? And then, of course, I don't even play it anymore because I get humbled so much every time I do.
By 8th graders, yeah, naturally.
Right.
Thanks for writing in, Sean. We appreciate it. All right. Hey, this Kena Bridge of Spirits game. It was announced a while ago. Sony's really been pushing it. It's on PS5, PS4, and the Epic Game Store on PC. I don't know where everybody else was at, but I was a little cautious about this one. Like, it looks beautiful. But I'm like, it's a first-time studio, Ember Labs. It's a bunch of former VFX people. I don't know how this is going to go. I've been playing it over the last couple days. I really, really like it. Janet, you've been playing it too?
Yay. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I've been playing it. I have rolled credits as of last night.
Wow, nice.
I really like it a lot. It is currently probably going to be in my top 10 for the year. I don't know if it's going to make it to the end because we still have quite a few games coming out. But yeah, I like it a lot. It's just a fun adventure that's shockingly challenging.
Yes. Okay, so if you don't remember what this is, it's very Princess Mononoke inspired, I guess you could say. And then you play as a Kena running through forests, I guess hack and slash adventure. And if I may give an impression, it is very, very much in the vein of, I guess like the 128 generation, right? It does feel like an old GameCube game. It feels like an old PlayStation game. It's like, you know, I saw BeatenDownBrian in the community comparing it to like, why does it feel like Beyond Good and Evil? There's a little bit of that in there, kind of like a Mark of Cree. I don't know. Janet, is that the fair comparison? Is somewhere in that vein, a little Jack and Daxter in there at times?
Yeah, I think it definitely feels like my absolute first reading of it before I talked to anyone else about this game was I'm like, this feels like the HD remake of a beloved PS2 game that never existed.
Right.
Which isn't a bad thing. I do think at times it can be limiting. And I do feel those limitations as I play, but it was so funny, like having that read, and then I did the review with Kind of Funny on PS I Love You, and everyone else also had that read, and then when the reviews dropped, like a lot of critics I knew also had that read. I was like, okay, we all feel like this is what it is, and it feels like it's nostalgia if I've ever seen it. Like it's so nostalgic because it is a new IP, it's a new thing from a new studio, but it is pulling on that nostalgia factor, I think, just in how it's designed, but it does feel like the upper tier of that. So, I know some people hear that and they're like, oh, that's such an insult, like obviously that can't be good. I just feel like it has those classic core design elements, and the way it kind of funnels you through the adventure, it just feels very of that era.
It's so weird. And Jacob Geller, do you remember this thing? Have you seen this thing much?
I've seen it plenty. I'm actually hearing that it's hard has me more interested.
Really?
Because to me, I watched it, and maybe this speaks to how I remember, like PS2 and GameCube games, but I saw it and I was like, that looks like a very beautiful kids game, not in a, demeaning way, but just in like probably not my style if I'm not going to be playing with like a younger sibling or something. And so hearing that it's hard has me, I don't know, a little more interested just because it feels a little more gamery. I don't know.
Yeah. Kids will cry. I'm like, this child's game is beating the hell out of me. Like I am not, I'm an intense person in case people listening haven't figured that out yet. But for games, I don't get too angry. I think I've just been in a lot of hard situations where I'm like, okay, I know how to keep my cool. I don't have any crazy rage quit stories of breaking things. But I swore more playing this game than any other game I played this year. And I did Demon's Souls for the first time this year. I went to like a dark place playing this game and I loved it. I did have a good time. It was so satisfying when you do finally overcome those challenges. And for context, like a lot of the, you mentioned hack and slash, and I think it is that to a degree, but once you start to get more abilities, it does open up beyond that. Like you get, a bow. At one point you get like a bomb attack. So I think that's when the game really starts to sing, because in the first, I'd say even like an hour or maybe even a little bit further in, before I got the bow, I was playing this and I'm like, y'all, this ain't got the sauce. Like the platforming does that thing where it's a little petty with, you got to get it just exactly how they wanted it to. If you want to grab onto the ledge, and there wasn't as much stuff to explore in those early areas, and it was just like, okay, I'm tapping. I played on PS5. It's like, all right, R1, R1, R1. Okay, they're dead, and then I roll, and I just kind of felt like it felt uninspired to me at the beginning. And then once those other abilities came in, you can make these really satisfying combos, because a lot of the combat situations are sort of arena-like, where you get a bunch of waves of enemies. So you can start to do something like, okay, I'm gonna shoot my arrow and hit this glowing icon off this enemy, because this recharges my rod ability, which lets me use all these different things I have in my skill tree. And then that loop just gets so satisfying. Yeah,
so you mentioned rot very quickly. It's a confusing thing, because the world is beautiful, we should note, but it's also like infested, at least in the first area, the Forgotten Forest area that I just wrapped up now. It's kind of infested with this dark overgrowth that's destroying the natural beauty. So it's a very satisfying thing. As you're like going through the game, you're purifying the forest. And when a game is visually this amazing looking, just environment wise, to like have that moment of like turning this entire area from red and gray, like bam, and just a flash of green and blue again. It's so refreshing. But the
infection actually looks like that stuff from Breath of the Wild.
It does.
Like the calamity goo.
Yeah, and I don't know where this goes, but the main character, it seems like they're like teasing the idea of like she also has like an infection in her arm, which looks like very Breath of the Wild sequel inspired. And then also with the bow, you can do a slow motion shot and stuff. So it does have like touches of that for sure. And actually the developers, Ember Labs, they're former VFX people. And in their reel, if you go on their official site, it's kind of fun, because back in 2016, they made a Legend of Zelda fan film, like this Majora's Mask fan film.
Yeah, the Majora's Mask one. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that like people wrote up.
I've seen that.
Really?
The one with like Skull Kid dancing around in the forest?
Yeah, the really good one.
That is unbelievable.
Yes.
Like I remember showing that to a bunch of people, being like, look at this.
Yeah, so it's amazing that, I mean, huge Zelda fans that have that pedigree could make a game this solid as their first big game. It's mind-boggling. What was I talking about again? Oh, the rot. So it's confusing. So that's not the rot. The rot in the game are these cute little, they kind of look like the Guardians of the Forest from Princess Mononoke. What'd you call them?
Circles.
The cute little circles, I guess, is a good way of looking at it. They kind
of look like soot sprites, but they're less sooty. They're more round.
Right. They kind of are going for the super cutesy move. They're like the porgs from Last Jedi, or there's a bunch of cute things in Shang-Chi, I guess, as well. Like they're obnoxiously cute, but it's really effective, because you like are building up this like armada of rot that are moving behind you. And the diabolical thing, Leo, the part that makes it brilliant, is they're all like just a bunch of little, soot creatures, whatever the hell they are, in the forest. But then you can go to a hat store and you can unlock hats. And it's not for all of them. You unlock and can equip one hat at a time. So you have this like sea of basically Pikmin, but then this ability to like customize each one individually. It's diabolical, because it makes you suddenly care about like the little guy with that cute hat and what he's doing in the fight compared to everybody else. It's very smart. It would melt your cold, icy heart, Leo.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
All right, I guess we will. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying my time with it so far. Very throwback, because I think part of it too, just trying to figure out like, why does it feel so old? Part of it, like in that first area, is that it's a lot of time in the forest, but it's not like an open world for this first area at least. It's like just corridors. And that's what feels somewhat retro about it. It's like, okay, you can't really interact with too much. You're kind of moving down these corridors. There's going to be paths and stuff, but it just looks visually so amazing within that confined constraint. It's a funky fusion.
Yeah, for me, I think it's the way they construct the platforming that feels older, because it's like, I think too, because like if we're thinking of what a modern platformer looks like, you know, that we pull from just Odyssey, right? Kind of the best of the best. You are jumping around, but it's not like there's all these like very obvious telegraphing. You know, it has that Uncharted Tomb Raider white where it's like, oh, you grab this part. So I think a lot of what the PS2 era was for me in terms of adventure platformers was the illusion of grandiosity that you couldn't really fully engage with. And I think Kena has that a lot. And you'll feel it in moments where you're like, okay, I need to go here. I can't really jump on this rock. I can just do that janky. We've all done that classic slide down a rock that you can't actually climb, where it's like kind of glitching out. Maybe you can cheese it.
It's a lot of that.
It's moments like that feel old to me. And then I think the abilities, I think because they are so, we've seen these a million times, still very fun. Like it does that classic thing too, where you like conveniently slide down a ramp and it feels really cool. And I love that. But also, I've done that a million times in Jak and Daxter. I've done that a million times. I've done that in every game. I'm
right.
I do like this, and I know you put this here for me, but at the same time, I know exactly what you're doing. I've seen it before. It's like they lean on a lot of those classic design philosophies, I think, which makes for a great game, but it does feel a little bit dated.
Yeah, for sure. And I've definitely been frustrated by like some of the puzzle logic too. Like, what am I supposed to be doing here? Okay, I think going from so many games, especially Deathloop, which we'll talk about again in a little bit, that are very good at guiding you if you want that. There's moments in this game where it's like, I'm not quite sure what you're hoping to get me to do here. Or like, you know, this is a very specific thing, but I was like up in this tree solving a puzzle, and I was like, okay, solve the puzzle, time to jump back down to the forest floor, try jumping back down, game over screen. Game over screen.
I got lost there too. But then I think the game over screen it's smart, because then I know I'm not supposed to do that.
But it's like the ground is literally like 15 feet below me, but there's some just death barrier that I can say I have to go back down the exact way they want me to go down.
I want a game over screen when I try to jump up against a rock that I can maybe go over.
And that's good action adventure gaming.
It just shoots you. It comes out.
Airstrike.
It's got the downsides of that generation along with the upsides. But if you're nostalgic for like action adventure games from that PS2, GameCube, Xbox era, and you want something to look amazing, especially just design wise, I think the characters are fantastic. Like, yeah, Kena Bridge of Spirits, it's $40. Do
y'all have a sense of how long it is? Because I think of those old games being longer than, games generally are today.
According to like the PR statement, it's 9 to 12 hours. For me, my playtime, I don't really remember offhand. I think it was maybe a little bit north of that.
Oh, really? Okay.
I will say too, as far as difficulty, just explore a lot and make sure you level, like when you can find the rot too in the world, which is something I really like about the game. I think as much as I mentioned like, the design's a little archaic, I do think some of the puzzle and exploration does remind me a little bit of Breath of the Wild. Obviously not that good.
Right.
Not quite that level, but it does have some of that Korok seed energy where you do things like, okay, I'm placing 3 statues need to be put in these little panels, and I go out and I find them in the rock, carry them over. Or like, okay, I pick up this log and there's like one of the rots hiding underneath it, and now I add that to my, arsenal, and I level up my ability. So I think it took me a while to like level up my stuff, because now my boyfriend's playing and he's like way higher leveled than I was earlier in the game. And I'm like, well, now you have like all these abilities. Well, I was just struggling because I can't parry. There's also a parry in this game. So yeah, a lot going on. I think the combat though is really what shines in it. And I think that is what helps differentiate it from just another thing that feels like a little bit old, because the combat is like so freaking good. And for me, it was like, I don't know what your read on the difficulty has been, but for me, it was harder than Death's Door. Like I had more struggle here than in Death's Door.
It is one of those things, it's deceptive. At a certain point, I was like, am I really bad at this game? And so look, I'm not proud of it. Maybe I should be. Yeah, this morning I was like, you know what? I want to get more in before I'm podcasting, bumping it down to easy just to get over this boss fight. And I do think that's the way I'm going to keep it. It's such a smooth, beautiful game.
I did that I did that toward the end just because I'm like, I want to knock this out. But then it felt like a little too easy for me. And then I kind of lost some of the flavor. I want something
in between because I was just a little too frustrated with that normal. Yeah.
I would love, and if they continue with this franchise or just from their future games, I would just love a little bit if they're going to continue to lean into, we do difficult combat.
Yeah.
I would love for them to have more nuanced difficulty sliders or something. Like if I could just slow down the parry time. Like I just needed a little bit of help to not be screaming at everybody around me. Like just a little bit.
That's fair. Also, it's very important. You should know that there's a button to kiss your rot in this game. So it's
which sounds gross and dangerous.
But they make it like the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life. Yeah, it's the best rot kissing I could imagine. But yeah, Kena Bridge of Spirits, check it out. At least look at a video, just trying to refresh your memory of what this thing looks like, because they've shown it off in a lot of state of plays and PlayStation stuff. But it's a very cool game to have on your PS5 if you want a big old school action adventure. Hey Leo,
what's up?
Hey man, I'm gonna tell you what's up. I have been so curious about your take on Deathloop. Janet was on last week, talked all about it, but Mr. Hitman Boy, I'm very curious what you think about it. And Jacob Geller, I mean, is a big fan of arcane stuff. I feel like this is a dream team for talking Deathloop, so I don't know.
And let me tell you, Ben, Leo and I's stories about Deathloop, intermixed.
Really?
There is some overlap.
Someone Juliana or something? Like, what's going on? I'm excited.
Interesting. Well, hey, Leo, just with the pitch of your voice, make a sound that conveys your excitement about Deathloop right now, please.
Did that come through?
It came through so beautifully.
I can do it again.
Yeah. Take it away, ma'am.
Oh, now I understand.
So it's not a squeal, it's not a shriek, but positive. Is that where we're at?
It's very positive.
Very positive.
Oh, okay. That's really. God, what would a bad have sounded like? Oh, okay. So the higher is just like how high the pitch is.
Yeah, when it's bad, it sounds like he's moving a chair across a hardwood floor. What's your experience so far, Leo? Regale us.
I think we summed it up.
Oh, okay.
I love Deathloop. I think it's a wonderfully made game with a lot of unique things about it that make like the typical stuff you do in a game of, grinding for the trinkets, the powers you get.
Yeah.
Like really not repetitive, really interesting every time. And I am particularly in love with the invasion system.
Really?
Which is my favorite. It's terrible. First off, I'll say that. It's terrible.
What?
Half the time you invade as Juliana, you're jumping around laggy, like jumping back 10 feet every time you move forward, and it's just unplayable. They give Juliana all the best stuff right away, so if she wants to, she can just walk up to you and use the Havoc Slab and kill you while taking no damage and doing double damage.
I think what you get is random, though, because I don't got the Havoc Slab as Juliana.
Oh. Okay. Well, you get everything pretty fast.
Out here.
Yeah, Nexus is not useful. But I think when both players are playing it in a cat and mousey way of like, let's use all the mechanics to have an interesting encounter, it's all the highlights of the game for me have been different invasion moments. And let me tell you, I'm invaded every single time because the game is really hot right now. So having it in online mode, every single level, the second I walk out the door, it says Juliana's on the hunt.
And you're still enjoying that? I
am, and it's really stretching out my playtime. Like I have these long fights with Juliana that really add a lot to it. I'm at 18 hours right now, and I feel like I have at least 5 hours to go.
Oh, nice.
In the story.
What's this overlap with Mr. Geller? You tortured that poor soul?
I invaded him while he was. Yeah, you can start.
So here's the story from my end. Is I was playing Deathloop. I paused the game I pressed escape on the game because I was going to talk to my mom. When I came back, I had been killed once, and then I had a text from Leo saying, "Where are you? I've invaded you." And my character had died and then reversed back into the bunker because when you're playing as Colt, you get 3 lives.
Yeah.
And so I was stuck in a place that Leo just couldn't get to, and I had been chatting happily with my mom, and so then I came out and Leo killed me again, and then there's a little bit of intrigue, but I'll say I like Deathloop. The online has been turned off because of Leo Vader.
Yeah, you can't even enjoy a chat with your mother without Leo torturing your experience. I'm pacing like an animal outside this door while you're trying to ask about your mother's day.
assumed Jacob was AFK because I was going around the map and I saw, every enemy is still alive. But I eventually found him crouched behind a rock because you can't pause because you could get invaded at any moment. So I have to keep it going. Me finding him behind the rock, I said, you know what? I'll take this kill for me. I worked hard enough to find him.
I mean, first off, I don't know how online works. Second off, if there's no one who is currently invaded and a player presses escape, couldn't you just turn off their invasion thing for like that time period? These kind of like these games where you can't pause really bugs me just because it's like life happens.
That's fair.
I don't like them. I don't like the invasions, and I like Deathloop, but my experience has been I get invaded. Juliana has massively better gear than me, and kills me very quickly. But even if that's not the case, I mean, Colt has many advantages. Colt gets to die 3 times. Colt doesn't have to kill Juliana and can instead kind of hack her little jamming signal and then leave, and that counts as like a victory kind of for you. But those 2 things mean either I just die 3 times in a row to Juliana because I'm just repeatedly killed by her, or like when I was invaded by Leo, I managed to hack his little jamming signal, but then if I left the level, time progresses, which means that the things that I wanted to do in that level, which I had prepared for earlier in the day, you just have to give up those things. And it just feels like such a well, do you want to die or do you want to have the time you've already spent wasted? So I have turned off online invasions, and I'm being now invaded by the AI Juliana, who's truly one of the dumbest AIs I've ever seen. And it's like stuck on a rock every time she comes in, and then I just shoot her in the head.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I like about it, is that it's a truly unpredictable element. Like, it's a player that could have any loadout. And again, they could choose a really messed up one. But I think I've luckily avoided that. It's like a lot of people looking to kill me a specific way that is fun for them. And the intrigue that we alluded to was I had proximity mines all around the place Jacob had to hack. So if he got away from me and got to the hack place, I would hear a mine go off, ideally, and I'd be able to go stop him. And then other plans fell through, and I just went back and hung out by the signal. And then he hacked it while I was there. And I said, oh, he must have a long-range hack thing on, which turned out to be true. He had a long-range hack trinket, which changed how that encounter went, which is super cool. And then there was a little hallway where we were kind of having a snipe off in, and then I decided not to shoot him and instead held the tag, which as Juliana just tells every enemy where he is. And then he tried to escape and he got killed by the AI.
Yeah, and it was just that thing where it's like, well, I successfully hacked it, so I probably could have escaped, and then the only thing I lose is my time in preparation, which feels bad. To me, this feels almost like an Evolve situation where, like, I bet playing it in the studio with other people who were, like, super on board with the invasion mechanic was, like, the most fun thing in the world. Right. But, like, when you just get, like, an OP player who's like, I'm gonna ruin this guy's day, or like me, you're just trying to accomplish something, and again, every single time you enter an area, you get invaded because the game is so hot right now. It felt less like an addition to the game and more like taking me away from the really cool level and mission design and all of that, because I do really like all of that, and I want to make
you're
that
an
clear.
environmental lad. I understand what you want to go for, but I mean, that's like why you can set it for just friends only, right? It seems like that's kind of the sweet spot for this.
That's what I had on when Leo invaded me.
Oh, and then I guess you can't do it. Yeah, not online
at all. I can do
single
player though.
And I guess the reason that I feel bad about doing single player is like, it's the game's whole shtick, like. It just feels bad I feel like I'm missing out on a core component, because it's like the main menu is like, here's Colt and here's Juliano, like a battle for the ages. And so I feel like I'm depriving myself of something by not doing it, but I'm also not having fun when it's on. So I don't know, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, Janet, I remember you were like, I don't know, it seemed like last time we talked last week, you weren't too into that aspect or hadn't really come up too much, but like, is that kind of the longevity of the game for you now? Is just diving more into it and doing more Juliana stuff?
Yeah, like I actually, so, you know, I played the bulk of it pre-release. So like there was a point in the review time where they let you like have online, but I'm like, what? I have like 2 friends on there that are media people. Yeah. One of them's Blessing. I don't want Blessing to kill me. He's really good at the game. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to beat the game. Like we talk. So yeah, I had it on just like I did have it on online mode at one point for a little while, and I don't know if those were real people or not. And then I just turned it to single just to be sure, because I'm like, I don't want to do all that. But for me now, like my boyfriend had started playing it. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like he came onto my stream to do it. And I'm like, oh, I'll set up the Juliana thing. And he's way better than me at stuff that's like more twitchy and stuff that's shooter. Y'all know I don't be shooting like that. I spent all of Deathloop slowly just stabbing people, walking away, invisible. Like it was so long. Which is hilarious because I watched him play. He's shifting all around. I'm like, that looks boring to me. Like, I liked what I did. But what I did looked boring to him because I was just, like, hiding in the shadows, like, for 20 minutes. But, you know, we all have different styles. So I've invaded his game a bunch. I can never kill this man. But I do ruin his time, which is nice. Like, he does say it's super stressful, even though I only got one win, and it was like kind of a technicality where I did do significant damage, but like he got killed kind of on his way to try to leave after doing what he needed to do. But I felt that win, and I went to bed peacefully that night, and he went to bed salty. So that's my memory of it. And it is very exciting, even as someone that personally, like, I'm not very good at being Juliana, which is hilarious because the whole thing's like, Juliana's on the hunt. And like, if the player's supposed to be really intimidated, but I'm the one that's scared. I'm like, where do I go? Should I wait by the antenna? Should I not? Oh my God, he can, or like in my first invasion, I was just running around. He's like, oh, I totally just see you just running around there. Eventually I got a little better, and like, it helps when you start to like know what's going on. And I do feel like it's given me a deeper appreciation for the game, because like Leo was mentioning, like you start to have to sort of figure out or predict or get to know who's on that other end, even if you don't know who they are. So like at a certain point, my boyfriend had picked up the gun that it does like gas damage, like when you shoot the bullets or whatever. And I was like, okay, that's really, you know, creating L's for me. So then I put on a buff that turns that into health for me. So I'm like, okay, cool. You're going to shoot me. I'm just going to gain health. Or I added, like, I just have a different kind of loadout based on trying to fit what his loadout is, or like I had in my mind how he'd come up an area, like there's an area that's very like vertical and it's flooded with enemies, and I'm like, okay, well when he comes through, everyone's gonna know he's there, and then I'm gonna wait, and I set up like all these mines, and I'm waiting and then I changed my appearance to an NPC only for him to come through the back door and accidentally kill me, thinking I was an NPC, but actually I was Juliana, and I was like, oh my God, like, and it's just all these weird stories that pop up, and these tensions, and me trying to figure out, okay, well, I did this as me, but if I was you, where would I be? It's just crazy, and I have a really good time with it, but it is highly stressful. And personally, yeah, I don't necessarily think that you need to play it to get to me the full experience of the game. I just think it's like a fun thing to do if you want to do it, like in Demon Souls. Like I kind of hate that too, and I'm like, who's this player that like, you know, enjoys ruining my very difficult run? You know, like this person sucks, but you can toggle that off. So I feel like it's totally fair to do that.
Yeah, I agree that it's not necessary, and I think that they turn it on too early. Like part of the reason it's so frustrating is because it's happening to you when you don't have enough abilities to deal with enemies reliably. Like never mind this player that is as strong or stronger than you.
It's also a little weird that like the game feels it's like I'm playing this almost pure stealth, and I'm really enjoying that, and I'm like, my 2 guns that I have infused, which means I can like take them back, are like essentially a silenced pistol and a sniper rifle. And like those 2 things are so fun to like play through the game's rule set with. And then I get invaded, and I'm like, I can't do anything. Like those 2 guns just cannot deal with another player at all. Yeah. And so I feel like I was super prepared for how the game was playing, and then I wasn't. And maybe that's fun, and it's like, oh, you should have diversified more. But it just feels like I was able to play exactly the way I wanted, and then I get invaded, and it's like, well, you should have picked up a shotgun, because like that's what would get you out of this situation.
Yeah, I definitely have my stealth normal game gun and my Juliana gun. I bring 2 guns each time, and that's what they are. But I think it's very satisfying that way. Like honestly, the more I play those encounters, the more I win as Colt, and the more you win as Colt, Julian is just delivering you slab upgrades and extremely good weapons and 8 trinkets, just like for free. If you have Carnesis and the suspension upgrade, you grab her and throw her and she hangs in the air and you empty a clip into her head and she's done. I had to get rid of that upgrade because it made it too easy.
It's just a pinata of perks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, planning for it is necessary if you want to have it on, especially like we're talking about. You're going to fight her every single time you possibly can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been very rewarding for me.
I'm curious, you being a stealth lad, Leo, and with your Hitman experience, like, what do you think about the way this game kind of guides you through? I'm curious if the hardcore fans of this type of game see it as baby mode, turn all those objective markers off.
That's how I felt about it at first. I mean, not like in that negative of a way, but
certainly not. You're not
this
a monster.
Is as handholdy as they could have been with this concept, which I think is overall a good thing. Like no one's going to be turned off. No one's going to not be able to finish it. And I have been encouraged by the more I play it, the more I find these little things like, oh, that didn't get added to my journal. And I just have to literally write that down or take a screenshot of it and remember it. Yeah. Like those things are hidden in there for players who really want to investigate. Okay. And I think that's a good sweet spot for it.
Yeah. It seems like a really good multiple playthroughs game. Like I could imagine this being something where it's like the first time I play through is the tutorial. And the second time I play through is like when I really, go wild and then I can, I know what the levels are doing. And so I can not just follow quest markers, but really like set up my own stuff.
Yeah. Do you think, Leo, in your heart of hearts, that it's going to be game of the year for MinnMax?
It has a great shot. I think it's my game of the year right now.
Okay.
It's my game of the year right now.
I think a lot of outlets are going to go for it. Who knows? There's still things that are coming out. I mean, Far Cry 6 going to dethrone this? No. Halo Infinite?
Y'all really forgetting Before Your Eyes so quickly?
Look, I think Before Your
Eyes is really good.
I will fight for Before Your Eyes.
I think that's where you were when we talked, maybe.
Oh, in the last episode.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Go play it. No one wants to play it. Go play this game. It's
People
really
forget
good.
about it. Yeah, I do think that's going to be a surprise. Like when we're talking about Game of the Year stuff, I think we're all going to be pushing for Before Your Eyes so hard that people are going to be like, what was that? I don't even remember the name of that game, but please, everybody, don't forget about Before Your Eyes. And Balan Wonderworld, please. There's these huge games from earlier this year. Go back and check them out. Yeah, I think it's going to be the cool choice for a game of the year, and I bet it's going to mop the hell up for so many outlets.
It's wonderful. It's a really refreshing game. Like even just aesthetically and the way it plays and the way the powers are used creatively, like feels very new, and that's like not even to mention the whole structure being something I've never seen before.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Deathloop, everybody. Let us know what you think. Let us know how your thoughts are evolving with it. Jacob Geller.
Yes.
I now want to talk about this other game that's called Severed Steel. I checked it out a little bit last night. What was your pitch? I'm trying to remember how you explained it to me, as in like this is the hottest thing in town.
All right, so Titanfall, plus Max Payne, plus destructible environments, plus it's just one of those like super hardcore synthwavy games where it's like electro bangers while you're playing. So
yes, you can imagine that. But like, I don't think it was just a coincidence, but I think like during the tutorial, when you do your first slide across the floor, I think that's when they drop the first beat and like hit you with then this tone that does not let up.
Yeah. So what it is a first person shooter where you have a lot of, movement abilities. You have a lot of acrobatic abilities, so much so that it barely makes sense. I mean, you can double jump and then you can dive, and the dive is like, it's like a Super Mario long jump. Like you just go flying through the air, and you can do it with like no momentum. You can just start off, and then you can slow time at any time, but especially if you're doing a dive or a slide or something, you get like unlimited slow-mo. And you're just running through these levels super fast, picking up guns, kicking dudes, shooting dudes, and it's a great time.
Yeah, it's a good week for kicking. Like the kick in Deathloop, everybody says is so ridiculously overpowered. Then the kick in this one is just absurd, and you can also like kick off the walls as you're moving up and stuff. Like it's really going all out. But like it definitely feels a little bit like there's some super hot elements in there, like a real time, fast paced super hot or something.
Yeah, because it's it would be incredibly difficult to play it in real time. Like, you know, you die so fast and the enemies react so fast that the slow-mo is near required, at least while you're like really getting used to the different movement mechanics and stuff.
Right.
But it's a kind of reaching perfection game, which is one of my favorite genres of like, it's pretty short. But like, again, the first time I beat it, I was like, that was the training round. And then I bumped the difficulty up and did it again and felt like I was just immediately felt myself getting so much better at the same game and the same levels, just because they give you so much flexibility in the movement. And you can blast holes in all the walls. Like, you can shoot through the walls, which is, I mean, speedruns of this game are going to be just bananas, because it's going to be like some dude is just going to shoot like diagonally into a wall 3 times and be at the exit, and like that will be how they go.
Yeah. Leo, have you checked out Severed Steel at all yet? Is the name up your alley?
I beat the demo. I thought it was really fun, but I feel like a lot of indie games, their pitch is you dive and you do slow-mo and you shoot bullets and you kill fast, and it's all about killing, and you got cool guns and you shoot 2 of them at the same time. You know, it's like a common pitch for indie games, I feel like I've seen. But do you feel like it stands out in key ways?
It's true. I mean, I feel like a lot of those games are good, honestly. But yes, I do. I do think this, I mean, it's like something small, but that really kind of like just indicates the kind of gonzo-ness of this game for me is like, when you're diving forward, you can aim fully like underneath behind you. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to make this make sense. Like, you know, if you picture your character, you're going like this, you can just like shoot behind your back and keep going forward. And that is not only like optional, but like a necessary move to just be like moving in one direction and shooting in the complete opposite direction. And then you can like hit the ground and immediately go from a dive into a slide and just kind of chain together this train of movement. And it's just really, sometimes I just want to play, you know, kind of like just a zero fat game where it's like no story. The tutorial takes like 5 seconds. You know, you're just kind of in this and you can go through the levels incredibly quickly if you know what you're doing. And it's fun as hell.
Yeah, I saw some
I also
people
like that you could dive onto a cart and the cart would move while you're on it and you can shoot from there. Very John Woo Stranglehold type of mechanic.
That's pretty good. Yeah, it's weird. It kind of seems a little bit like Boomerang X. I don't know if you played that earlier this year, but it's kind of like the fast-paced first-person stuff.
Very, very similar energy to that. I like this one a little more just because they have like lots of different guns, which give it a little different feel, whereas Boomerang X is really just, you got your boomerang. But if you liked Boomerang X, I could heartily recommend this game.
Yeah, Severed Steel, everybody. I'd imagine Steam only at this point. Yes?
I think it's on PlayStation.
Is it really?
But I can't imagine playing it without a mouse. I have to say, it seems like one of those games where it's just like mouse aiming is near required.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, it is totally on PlayStation. I'll be damned.
Yeah, it seems like it's on. Is it on everything?
Holy crap! It's on everything.
It's on Switch.
Switch.
Is that on? Like, is that real?
I think so. Yeah. All right. Severed Steel. You probably accidentally already own it because it is everywhere apparently. Hey, real quick, I feel guilty for talking about this game, but
shame on you.
I know. I just want you to have patience with me and my tastes, please. But Age of Empires 4, everybody, announced back in 2017. It's been a long road to get here, but this last weekend they had a technical stress test. It's kind of an online beta thing where they had, you know, some online modes you could jump in there and play, and they just had like they had the words technical stress test on the screen, and it was like bouncing around like a screensaver just to really drive home, like, no one be mad, this game comes out at the end of October, we still have time to fix anything that's annoying you right now. And there are a couple bugs here and there, but overall, Age of Empires 4, diving in and playing, I played like each of the 4 civs that are in there. It made me very, very happy. And definitely the RTS fans are out there saying like, it's too conservative. It's basically an Age of Empires 2 remake, but it is telling that jumping into this game, it was just like a nice warm bath. It's like, I know exactly what to do. Somehow for this new game, it feels like, the most jarring thing is, okay, like the mouse momentum feels a little bit different from other Age games. But other than that, like, you get the idea. And I get it that the hardcore fans are going to be upset about it being too conservative and not reinventing the wheel or anything. But for like them going back to basically Age of Empires 2, the best-selling Age game, and then just building it up from that install base, hopefully with a broad enough brush to rope in anybody who used to like these RTS games, I am very much rooting for this thing, because it's just a nice RTS. And I think people are scared of RTS games. Yeah, yes, Jacob Geller, because you imagine it's a lot of people screaming and APMs and everything like that. Not this one.
The screaming is what really sets me off. I don't want screaming in my games.
Well, then actually this might not be a good game for you, because one thing that really stood out to me, at least in this technical stress test, was I wasn't screaming, but every unit in combat is screaming almost at all times. And not like, oh, my arm, but everyone's just like, charge! Basically, everyone's doing the charge scream all the time, which I guess is probably something like realism. I don't really understand it, but that's a lot. And the other big thing...
If you were that high up, you wouldn't be able to hear it. It's not realistic.
That is true. But the other thing that the community has really latched onto in a silly way is every time you click on your town center, which you're doing a lot in these games to make new villagers and all that stuff, it has like a little bell sound, like a ding ding. But for whatever reason, I don't know how the devs didn't catch this, it just feels like that bell is twice as loud as anything else. And so basically the entire time you're playing Age of Empires 4 is ding ding, ding ding. And so they have just come out now and embraced it and tweeted out like, don't worry everybody, we will be quieting the bell. It's a bit obnoxious. Ding. Yeah, come on, Microsoft fans, let's get the ding trending out there. But
Do you think it's possible that this will have like when Crusader Kings came out, there were just like a lot of people, there's like, for a relatively inaccessible game, there are a lot of people like, oh, Crusader Kings 3, amazing, here's the stuff that I did. Will that happen, or is this going to stay just like the real heads are the only people who are going to play this?
I hope that, I think they've already kind of, tried to lure in this crowd again and again with the remakes and remasters and everything. But no, I don't think it's going to bring out a whole new audience, but I hope that it at least rekindles some love for the genre from everybody who's dabbled a little bit in any of these games in the past. Because just to have like a friendly RTS to go into, but you're not sweating bullets and checking out build orders and realizing like, wow, now this game is screwed in the first 30 seconds because I messed up where I placed the gateway or whatever in StarCraft. Like, it's just such a soft approach. It took me in my first game like 8.5 minutes to get to the second age, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think it's gonna be like a friendlier crowd. Although I gotta say, I am outraged that this is like, technical stress test for Age of Empires 4. This is pretty select stuff, and still, very few people were willing to talk to me. And like that's the golden age of RTSs in my mind, is like going on there and starting a game, be like, hey, good luck, have fun. Or I try to be like, hey, what do you think of the stress test so far? Silence. Everybody just stonewalling me, trying to focus on this. Leo, they're not remembering that the core of the RTS genre is playing with friends. It's communicating. It's being silly,
Yeah, hopefully they don't just have you blocked or have text chat off.
Maybe there are monsters like that. I hope they're at least seeing my messages of goodwill, because I'm trying to be friendly out there. Dang it.
And the people who turn off text chat aren't the monsters. They've been victims of monsters in the past.
You're right.
I can assure you.
You're probably right.
Oh, no. It's so sad.
Anyways, yeah, Age of Empires 4. I think it's small additions like, hey, they're rearranging the hotkeys to be smarter so you have quicker placement instead of just E to build a house. No, well, I guess that's a bad example, but you get the idea.
You're really selling this.
I know, it's so tough to talk about. It's like, oh, and like now when you're going to the next age, you do that by building a building instead of taking up your town center with actually advancing to the next age. You can still keep cranking out villagers. It's a bunch of like little small things. The way that the priest converts people is not one unit at a time, which is kind of classic Age. Now it's kind of like a radius, kind of like the meteor in Age of Mythology. So there's a lot of very finicky things, but if you're interested in Age of Empires 4, I promise we'll be streaming it. I know best friend Ronnie and Grant are very excited about it, so we'll dive into the weeds there. I won't bore everybody here, but
and everything was just a technical test. Like in the final version, the text bouncing around will say final version.
It will. Yeah, everybody please keep that in mind. It's coming at the end of October. I'm very, very much looking forward to it. It really felt like saying hello to an old friend that doesn't look great, but they seem solid.
I'm happy for you.
Hey, thanks so much, man. But hey, Jacob Geller, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Online invasions.
Online invasions primarily. That's right.
Way.
Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, everybody. If you like this show, you can support it or join it by going to Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Find the tier that's right for you. We have so many options in there. Dig through, see what we got, cruise around. We just released a commentary track for The Matrix. If you want to help get excited about Matrix Resurrections, help the world get excited about Matrix Resurrections, you can go listen to our full commentary track for the original film. You can listen to that on your favorite podcast app if you go support us.
Are you going to do the sequels,
Patreon.
Ben?
No, we're not.
I watched both sequels this Sunday.
What?
They rock.
Really?
I'm a big fan.
All right. Well, we had Alex Grenling, who's a designer at Bungie. He designed Trivia Tower and stuff, and he was a big sequel defender. So there's plenty of that in there, but I'm glad other people like it. I like hearing people talk about the sequels so much more than I like watching the sequels. It's just night and day. But anyways, thank you to our biggest supporters over there on Patreon, like Fatal X Blade. He wants everybody to know. He says, look at this, Leo. Lucas, a fellow patron, wants you to check out his YouTube channel, Fatal X Blade. That's Fatal X Blade with 2 spaces. His YouTube channel is primarily focused on highly edited reviews on the newest games. Each review features a short parody at the beginning of the video. He typically uploads every other week, so head on over to his channel, subscribe, and leave him some feedback. Currently, he's working his way through Tales of Arise and just started Kena, Bridge of Spirits as well. So Fatal X Blade on YouTube, go over there and leave a comment. Give him a sub. He supports us, so it's the least you could do. We appreciate it, Fatal X Blade. Leo, isn't it nice when it's like people's channels, people's podcasts from the community, that's what we're highlighting on the show? It's just beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm looking at it like you asked me to, and this editing's great.
It's fun. Yeah, he's going for skits every once in a while.
Better than mine.
It's really sad. It's like, I guess we're like professional video people, Leo, and then it's sad that you just cruise around and be like, how's everybody else doing? And you're just annihilated. It's like seeing the competition in Smash Brothers. It's just embarrassing out there.
These 8th graders are really good.
I bet, most 8th graders are better at video production than I am. Hey, but look at this. Fixture Gaming is also supporting MinnMax in a huge way. In Fixture Gaming, they have the Fixture S1. It is a mount that you clip onto your Switch Pro controller so you can play with the Switch's best controller on the go. So it's a mount, clip it onto that Pro controller, slide your Switch screen onto there, and it's beautiful gaming. You can check it out. You can also get the carrying case bundle, but the Fixture S1 on its own is $35, and you can use the promo code MinnMax for $5 off the Fixture S1. There's a link in the description if you want to check this thing out. We're giving them away all month long. Last week, the winner on Instagram was Nicholas Cole. Congratulations, Nicholas Cole. You had a custom Fixture S1 from Fixture Gaming. And now, for this week, everybody, if you go over to the wonderful land of Facebook and you follow, like, whatever the hell you do to MinnMax over on Facebook, do that. Check out MinnMax on Facebook, and we will have a post there, and you have a very, very good chance of winning a Fixture S1 over there, because we don't have many followers on Facebook. So jump over there, and you can win a Fixture S1. We'll have a randomized giveaway coming up very soon. So thank you to everybody who supports Fixture Gaming. Also, thanks to I'm8bit. They want everybody to know about the Mutazione double vinyl soundtrack. It's the adventure game from a while ago. It's a double vinyl soundtrack with music by Alessandro Corona, so you can check that out. The album art is by Nils Deniken. As always, it looks beautiful, comes with the MP3 download code as well. And check out everything in I'm8bit's wonderful online store. Everything under $100 you can get 10% off of if you use the promo code WAKEMEUP. Wake me up. One word, no space. Wake me up for 10% off everything in I'm8bit's.
That's not the song that I was thinking of.
I know, it's always confusing. It's always
Evanescence, obviously.
Obviously, I thought so too. The point is, go to I'm8bit's wonderful online store, check it out, help support them, because each and every week they ship out a prize to the MinnMax community. Everybody supports us at any tier on Patreon. Even the $2 tier can submit a question for us to read on the show. We're going to choose the #1 absolute favorite question of the week, and that person wins a prize. This week it is The Pathless double vinyl soundtrack composed by friend of the show, Austin Winery. So one of Kyle's favorite games from last year. You can win the vinyl soundtrack just by submitting a great question for us to read. So thank you to I'm8bit. All right, y'all ready to go? Hang on.
Woo!
Oh, we got a woo!
Discord's so judgmental of what noises it allows through.
They're
what noises it thinks are cars honking outside.
Anti-excitement. That's
beep,
how I show excitement. Doreen Claire writes in and says, hey, y'all, Janet had a thread on Twitter about Kena and indie games, and it got me thinking, how much does it impact your score curve if a game is indie or not? What about if it's a first game? Score curve is weird. I guess we don't really give scores. You don't give scores where we're kind of funny, do you, Janet?
No.
Okay. But yeah, it's an interesting question. How much does it impact your, I guess, perception of a game or the way you talk about it? Do you think it has an impact on you, Janet?
It does not. That was what my thread was about. A lot of people, and I think it's totally fair to contextualize a game's release, especially if we're talking about like, what is the future of the studio, or are we excited to see more projects from them and things like that. And I think it's fair to have context and important to give context to people. But ultimately, for me as a critic, I feel like my job's to come here and tell you if it's good. Like some people, and I've done plenty of formal reviews that I do score, you know, whether it's at IGN or at my own outlet now, Pen to Pixels. And I remember reading like the comments on my Sea of Solitude review, and they're like, oh, I mean, yeah, sure. I think I give it a 6. And they're like, I mean, yeah, but like, it's such a small team. It's like, that means it's like an 8. I'm like, I don't make the game better. And like, hey, no shade to that team. Like, I really like EA Originals. I talked to the developer. I think there was like ideas, blah, blah, caveat. But I'm like, look, I feel like it's more insulting to handle an indie project with kid critic gloves because you're small. So like, I'm going to be like, I don't think that's nice. I think that's just being disingenuous personally. So yeah, I'm like, I rate the same, and I compared it to in the thread, the food that my family makes. Like, we're always cooking all the time and trying new stuff. I'm like, yeah, and you know, after each new meal, we kind of ask each other like, oh, what'd you think? Like, should this be in the rotation? Is it good? And I'm never like, it's pretty good at when considering that, you know, it's your first time making it and you're not a professional chef. Like, I don't want to eat the sandwich because it didn't taste good. Like, totally. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Like, it's hard to make good stuff. But yeah, I treat it exactly the same.
And I think there's a space, like, especially in the podcast world, to like give a shout out to the team of like, hey, that's crazy. Like, Kena is a pretty wildly ambitious and successful first game for Ember Labs, but that doesn't mean that you should spend your money on it necessarily, you know. But
it's like, what do you think about it, right? Like, for me, like, I think Kena's great. Like, I legitimately think it's great. No asterisk. I don't care who made it. It was great. Like, I really enjoyed the game and I recommend it. Like, people always want to do the whole, oh, well, like, like, people won't like a game and then they're like, oh, but it's only $30, so like maybe you should check it out. Why? You said you didn't like it. Like, why would I check it out for just because it's cheaper? I mean, for me, again, that's an audience thing. Like, there are, you know, we all have different budgets and things. And maybe you're someone who's like, you know what? I ain't dropping 70 unless it's like a 9 out of 10, unless it's Game of the Year contender.
Right, totally.
That's not how I play, but I don't have your budget. Like, I don't got your bills. Like, if that's what you want to do, go for it. You know, I mean, I'm out here playing games that end up being horrible at $3 a piece on the eShop because I'm just that's my vibe. Like, I like to take a gamble on things, but
your vibe is $3 eShop
good
game.
Or not.
Yes.
Yeah, like, I mean, you know what's. Yeah. Anyway, I could go on forever, but that's my take.
I think I have generally the same take with kind of a different perspective on it. I mean, one, I do think it's okay to spend money on things because there are other reasons than just the game is great. I think if you really respect a studio's culture, it's good to buy their games. You know, it's like, it's the same reason that like I might buy local meat even if I can't tell the difference between that and like something that came from a slaughterhouse 500 miles away. It's like, this is better for the world for this thing to exist. And so if you want to vote with your dollar, you don't have to. I mean, there are many other ways to make your voice heard. I do think it's a good thing to do. I also think that kind of on the other side of this, I think game reviews as a whole overrate polish and to the exclusion of some other things. And so I think this is a good, do you consider, you know, triple A's, you know, like, do you rate them less well or more well than indies? And I think a lot of very big, expensive games get high marks for just being incredibly polished when I think that is not particularly interesting a lot of the time. And so like sometimes people are like, oh, how could you say you like Before Your Eyes more than God of War? Like, look at all of the things that God of War does flawlessly. And it's like, I won't contend with any of that, but I think that what I get out of Before Your Eyes is just ultimately more interesting, and that like holds a higher value than polish. And so I think we are actually inflating the scores of AAA games sometimes because we're so trained to kind of review based on certain criteria, whereas indie games can be good at really specific things, and that is what I tend to value more, not just that they were made by a small team or whatever.
It's a matter of, getting the point across. Is it, are you being hit on the other end of the screen by this emotion, by what they're going for, right? By this unique feeling. And I feel like the game industry, this is maybe too big of a topic, but like, I feel like the game industry hasn't quite fully grappled with that idea and that lesson that I feel like all of entertainment over the last couple of years with COVID have learned, which is we don't care where your late night show is filmed. If Seth Meyers is in his hallway filming the show, effectively the same for us. Like, it's totally fine. And I think there's some lesson the game industry could learn about, like, get an interesting idea out there, make sure it's playable, obviously, but like, we do not need to just smooth everything down to the most beautiful polished edge. Like a Before Your Eyes example. Imagine if they spent the time making that look like a Sony Santa Monica level production. It's like, it's barely.
Now I'm just picturing Kratos. Like they both have boats,
That's true. That's true. But yeah, it's unnecessary, right? You can crank that stuff out, hopefully a little bit faster, and hopefully it's a lighter load for the team if you just realize that it's okay. At this point in the game industry, we are accepting of things that don't look perfect. So yes, going back to this question from Doreen, it reminds me of like the old Jeff Corkism of, every time we talk about team size or like, oh, well, it's not fair because they had their studio flooded when they were developing this game. And Jeff Cork, when reviewing games, would always just pull not my problem. I only have the game to look at. Yes. Everything else, not my problem. I can
see why people think is like mean or something, but I don't know. It's just,
if you're putting a score on a particular, I think, you got to do it.
Especially in the context of a review, which is like, none of this makes a difference to the consumer.
Right. Let's see. Philly Eat Steak says, hello to my favorite video essayists on YouTube. Look at that.
Leo Vader.
It says, like many others, I was completely puzzled by the release day review embargo for Arcana, especially since it reviewed so strongly. But since it was a digital-only game for now, there's a physical version coming out in November, did it really miss out on anything by not having reviews released early? Is this a new thing that I'm just going to have to get used to? That was confusing. I was bracing for impact that this game wasn't going to be good because there were not reviews out until release day. But in my mind, I think this is just Ember Labs' first time out of the gate. They're publishing this thing. I'm sure they were drowning and maybe not used to the concept of even like mock reviews. And so maybe they wouldn't have had that idea of like, we should try and get these positive review scores out earlier. I think it's just a small team first time out of the gate problem.
I mean, maybe they whatever advice they got from their market research said this type of game, people will see a 9 out of 10 review and immediately want to go buy it, and they don't want to have people forgetting about it over the course of a few days.
It could be.
Like, I think bottom line is a lot of people read into that too much, and it's not an accurate read a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a new thing. There was that thing a couple of years ago where Bethesda was like, we're not doing review copies for any of our games. Right. We're just sending them out day one, which I would say sucks. Like, it's not good for, I think, the industry, but it doesn't have anything to say about the game's quality itself. A lot of times those decisions are not even made by the developers of the game. It's just like some PR person that's like, this is the better strategy.
Right. It seems like that's completely out the window by now. I mean, Deathloop, they're getting the reviews out
except they still have Kotaku embargoed, which seems insane, but they do.
I feel like that full staff has rotated at Kotaku at this point. Like, it's probably safe to whitelist the
that classic
outlet.
question. Is it still the same site if you just is it the same share? Right, it's a ship of Theseus, yes.
By the way, I don't know if you saw Jacob Geller, that new no-clip video that Danny O'Dwyer made that was just about the design of Deathloop and kind of the reaction, and had Dingo, the director.
It's in my watch later.
There's an interesting... Oh, with Leo Vader? No, but there was an interesting little beat in there where Dingo was talking, the game's director was talking about, like, people make the comparison to Prey's Moon Crash. Like, oh, that roguelite kind of DLC, standalone DLC, was that like good training? Obviously, it's a different studio, but it's all under the Arcane banner. Was that like good informative design lessons for Deathloop, and he says in a video that he's like, no, actually I only played it for like a few hours, then I realized it was a roguelite and I didn't want to play it anymore. So I was like, wow. I just assumed that Arcane was Arcane and they were like really into each other's stuff, but apparently not very influential for the director, at least for Deathloop, which is interesting.
Not everyone at Rockstar has played table tennis.
Yeah, I guess so.
It does explain why like everyone in Deathloop PR was like, it's not a roguelike.
Right.
It was like every interview, and it's like, oh, because the director hates them apparently.
Don't even mention them around, he'll freak out. Zane Dukes writes in and asks, is Mr. Plinkett the most influential video essayist? This is Mr. Red Letter Media. Is he number one video essayist? Is the question.
In terms of influence?
I guess,
yeah.
That's look up that name.
Yeah, he did the Star Wars prequels was kind of the big thing that kind of kicked off Red Letter Media. They're still going strong.
Then the longest videos YouTube had ever seen, the longest video essays.
Yeah.
Now that's par for the course, an hour and a half.
I'm looking these up. They're 2016? Is that the answer is no. Like
that.
Okay.
You haven't seen them?
No. Wow. People talking about Star Wars for 5 hours.
They're really good.
It was foundational for me.
Oh, I
mean, like 12 years ago or whenever it was, like there was not that type of content on YouTube at the time, at least in a way that I ever saw.
Right.
But and that kind of like actually well edited music, scripted sequences that haven't aged well.
Unfortunate scripted sequence that should be cut out for the director's cut.
Yeah, but I think I would actually differentiate. Like, again, I haven't watched these. It sounds a little more like angry video game nerd type content,
it's
right?
Much better
Where it's
than
like there's scripted sequences and then content.
Jacob Geller,
I think
this is honestly some good Patreon content for you. Is to have your video essay where you review the old video essays about the Star Wars prequels from Red Letter Media. I think that'd be really fascinating.
Okay, because I think the answer is every frame of painting. Like, I think that pretty much every video essayist now is still doing an impression of that guy.
Yep.
I don't know.
Every frame of painting is incrable.
Really?
Like, and the fact that it went out on its own terms, it like exists as just this great body of video essays.
It's like it's one of those things that emerged fully formed. It's like the first every frame of painting video is exactly what video essays would be for the next, 8 years.
Wow, am I an idiot? I've never heard
You've seen this the Marvel,
be such your thing.
The Marvel Symphonic Universe.
Hang on, I'm
about
looking
music in Marvel movies.
Oh, yes. Also, I'm looking at this and it looks like I have watched their piece on Edgar Wright, How to Do Visual Comedy. So apparently it's come through my feed at some point.
I literally just recently was thinking about doing a video on like fight scenes and fight scene choreography. And I was really like, that Jackie Chan video from Every Frame of Painting, like that says that's 8 minutes long and says everything that will ever need to be said about a fight scene.
Meanwhile, you're 30 minutes on the Stuart Little lore, so we can't whittle it down any bit. Every bit is crucial.
Every Frame of Painting could have done that.
We're going to be feeling that video for years.
Okay, so I guess not Mr. Plinkett. I don't know. For me, I think that's maybe the one I think of for kind of kicking off YouTube, but I get it. Jared R. Meyer writes in and says, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, good job, everybody. On a recent MinnMax Council, that's our Patreon exclusive podcast releasing every Monday, by the way. There was some great advice about breaking into the video game industry. I enjoyed the positive energy, but I think I'd like a taste of the opposite end of the spectrum, a slap of reality. What are some hard truths, both about breaking into and being in the industry? The parts people don't talk about, the things that may deter people from breaking in. Don't get me wrong, it seems amazing, but while I often hear about the pitfalls and difficulties of game development, I never hear about the harsh realities of the media side. Thanks for all the amazing content.
We follow different people on Twitter. We hear a lot about the pitfalls.
A lot of complaining.
Did they mean like what's hard, like what sucks about being in the industry, or what's hard about getting into the industry?
It seems largely about breaking in. Yeah, the things that may deter people from breaking in is how he refers to it ambiguously. Yeah, any big thoughts on this one?
I got a lot. I'm gonna let people go first.
I mean, it's just to start with, it's a lot of our commitment for not much money if you are lucky enough to have like a pitch accepted. Like just if you know, I think we all do this. We discount the hours that we spend because it's playing games and it's something that you like to do. But like, even, you know, like a mid-tier review for somewhere, like if you break down the hourly rate of like how long you spend playing a game, how long you spend writing a review, it's just like, it's really not a lot of money.
Right.
And getting those gigs is hard. Like it's a victory if you get like a, you know, a pitch picked up or whatever. And so it's like, you know, a lot of people have, you know, other jobs or whatever doing this, but it's like it's just a big investment to even get started in.
And now you're like a wild success, Jacob Geller, with your own YouTube channel, and you're doing a bunch of freelance stuff all over the place and whatnot, right? You're still doing stuff with Polygon every once in a while?
Occasionally, yeah.
Okay, nice. Here's a broad one. Here's a dark truth. Do you feel happier by and large than you did 5 years ago?
In my job.
Oh,
you know, there's a lot of other stuff that's happened in the past 5 years.
Yeah, maybe that's complicated.
I am career satisfied in a really meaningful way, I think.
And that improves, you think, your overall level enough to have an impact on your total percentage meter of happiness?
Man, I've been inside for 2 years. I don't know.
It's so stressful. This like
Global
my palms
pandemic.
are like sweating. I'm like, oh my god.
I think where I'm leaning.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
You know, I'm very happy. I also like. I am the 1% here. Like, I am so unbelievably lucky to be in the position that I'm in, and like trying to give advice based on like the life that I'm living now just feels dishonest. You know, it's like if you win 4 lotteries in a row, then yeah, it's cool. But that it doesn't feel, you know, and there is a lot of joy to be found in it, but that's not what the question is.
Right. Yeah, I think obviously unbelievably lucky, but I also feel like if you're hanging on your hats like, if I had a job working on video games or around video games, suddenly my life would be so much better. I don't know if it would. I think you would by and large feel about the same day to day.
Yeah.
But
it's always perspective. Anything can become normal.
Right. Yeah. I guess
surprise you.
I've been working in this long enough where that's probably true. Yeah, but hard truths.
Yeah, I got like a million of them. I mean, I think if you're really curious about this, I have a site called GameIndustryGuides.com where I have an email there. You can like email me any questions you have and I'll do like a in-depth breakdown post. You know, I'll cite you anonymously just because a lot of times people will hit. I'm sure you all have gotten this a million times over. Like people will DM you with like, how do I like just questions about the industry? And I personally love helping people, but I don't love writing the same like really, really long message to strangers who may not even take my advice. And I just feel like I'm wasting my time. So now at least it's like, okay, well, I'm putting it on the internet. Maybe even if you don't do anything with this, maybe someone out there will. So that's kind of been my logic. But I think, yeah, definitely grueling hours, no pay, a lot of you really have to have to a degree, unfortunately, thick skin to be in the industry, depending on what you want to do in the industry. Yeah. I think there is a lot of joy to be had in building your own community and in drawing those lines where it's like, you don't have to deal with terrible people if you just block all of those. But then also you know, have to be okay with leaving that money on the table, being okay with curating who views your content. You have to be, you just have to have a lot of grit. And I think also the number one thing that I think deters people, I guess, just from maybe even getting started, besides like all of those things, is folks always forget that this has nothing to do with games, y'all. I know it might sound crazy because like that's all we talk about. Like, and I'm playing games for hours. It is a big part of my work week to week. But I'm here because I like talking to y'all. I like communicating. I like writing. I like editing. 2 degrees. Sometimes I also hate those processes too. But I'm here because I like criticism. You know, I have a literary background where I would analyze books, and I love that. And to me, when I step up to a game, it's the same as stepping up to a book and breaking down themes and finding evidence. It's different stuff, so like it's structurally different. But that's what I love. That's what keeps me coming back. I like working with community. I like fielding people's questions. I have a bit of an ego where I can be like, hey, everyone, look at this thing I did. I know there's a million other reviews. You want to hear what I said. Like, you have to have a little ego to be doing that. You have to you have to have a lot of these different like facets. So I think before you go into, I think it's totally okay and natural to be like, I like games. Maybe I can do something in games, like that Seinfeld bit. But you have to have a passion for something underneath that. Even streaming, like it's not necessarily just about playing the games. Are you going to be a streamer that talks to your community? If you are, you need to be able to come up with questions. You need to be able to deal with awkward situations. You need to be able to bring people in. Like one thing I do all the time when I do like this is very casual, like in my Discord community, we watch like the Marvel stuff together, and it's all chill, like we're friendly. It's like 4 or 5 of us on a call. But even then I'm like, okay, let me make sure everyone's talking a good amount, that everyone feels welcome. Let me think of a question I can ask. Like, you have to like that stuff. And if you don't like that stuff, maybe this isn't the career for you, and that's okay too. So I think it's totally natural to want to marry a passion you have, whether it's art or games or whatever, but you have to love the skill that it takes, because, you know, I pulled up my toggle tracker on Tuesday, September 7th, and, you know, I'm trying to work less hours because I do be working a lot of hours sometimes. I worked 10 hours and 44 minutes. That's total time working. That's not counting downtime. I streamed for 4 hours. My VO took me 32 minutes to record. My review took me 45 minutes to edit. My capture and editing took me an hour and 21 minutes. This is for the Artful Escape, a game the game itself took me 4 hours to beat. You know, scheduling the post and doing the art for it took me 51 minutes total. Like, you gotta like that stuff. Like, you think I'm doing all that because I just like the Artful? First of all, I didn't even like the Artful Escape that much. That's the other element too.
Sacrilege.
But I loved doing that because I like engaging in the criticism. I like putting my work out there. Like, you have to have a passion for that. You can't just be like Mario Odyssey was fun. So I think those are all things that deter you. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's such a hard field. I would never discourage anyone from going into it. I think give it a try, experiment. You'll know if you don't want to do it. And I think you should be okay with that too. Like, that's part of figuring life out. Like, I was a teacher before this. Like, there are plenty of people who would just have said, oh, well, I taught, so I can't do it. Like, do whatever you want. Like, do your best, work hard, be safe, be financially responsible, but follow your passions. And hopefully, you know, at some point you're going to find the thing that clicks for you.
Follow your passions. Keeping it as a side thing is a very, very good safe route. Like Jacob Geller, you're like case in point, right? Like, you built everything up in your free time.
Ben, I still have a job.
I know, it's crazy. What are you doing?
I am not. I'm still not doing this full time. Like, it's I hate to say, because I don't want to give the advice that people should work for free. You know, like, you don't want to contribute to an outlet that won't pay you or whatever. But I do think there's value in figuring out if you like doing the thing first by just writing your own blogs, making your own videos, doing that sort of thing, and like see if you can hold yourself to a schedule. See if you can kind of like consistently do this thing, you know, and if so, great, continue doing it. But like, you know, there's a lot of schedule. There's a lot of just like, gotta make a piece of content.
I can feel people listening to this. I feel them in my soul saying like, long hours. Hey, I work long hours in my job and I don't get to talk about Artful Escape all day. Like, you know, it's like a lot of people are working long hours. And so I'm sure everyone's outraged, but like, having the video game job would be so easy, and it is, but I think you're totally, well, it is at times.
Well, it's hard to, I think it's hard to monetize that though. It's like, to bring back to the Artful Escape example, like, I make money on Patreon. Like, I have my own Patreon. It's pulling like 800, you know, that's visible to the public. It's like $800. I show up here. I'm on Kind of Funny. I get paid through those facets. But even like something like the Artful Escape, I mean, you could argue that I got paid through Patreon because like my patrons support me doing my work. Right. But technically, y'all, I didn't make anything on that. Like, no one paid. I did that for my outlet, Pen and Pixels. I don't get enough traffic to get ad revenue on that. Like, 100 people view the video. Go watch it if you like vibe with my work, because that helps. But yeah, like that, I did that. That is me essentially like trying to turn working for free and building up my own stuff into a way where I can also live. And that's why I use Patreon. So you have to be able to figure that stuff out. Like, you know, I streamed for 4 hours. I got some money from that through Twitch subs, but it's not like that's not guaranteed. Like, you have to have those plans in mind. So even if it's like I guess the problem or the challenge in the game industry is, you know, that was a 10-hour, 44-minute shift. That's not counting when I took a break. That's pure hours work. So it's definitely way above the 8 or even the 10. And how much money did I really make from that? It wasn't an hourly rate. So again, I don't think that means that it's impossible. I did this. I've only been doing it for 3 years full time, and I've done all this. I think that's people get really excited about that. But also, awesome. It's a bit of luck and a lot of work. So but definitely keep asking those questions and digging into that info. Hopefully, my blog can be helpful with that. Again, I don't get paid for that. I just do it because. So you know.
Ben, I do agree with your point that it's like, I worked in food service for several years, and it's like, I get to sit down now. You know,
right.
It's like there are many harder jobs. It's important to know. It's just, it's more like when I was working food service, I didn't have to serve a bunch of burgers like before they even considered paying me, which I guess is just the flip side. Is like, you do at least know that you are receiving a paycheck for it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I guess so. I think in terms of just like other things that you probably don't factor in, we've talked about it a lot, but just, comments can really hurt. And just like that need for comments, this is something I've talked about a lot on, Better Quest, our show about getting better, and MinnMax Council, but like, I do find myself into like spiraling into these unhealthy nights where it's like, all right, before I go to bed, let me just do like a quick search of MinnMax, see if anybody's talking about us on Reddit in the last week. Let me just...
Reddit, bro.
Is anyone talking about us on Reddit? Yeah, what's going on over here? It's just like, it's always just that stupid loop of like, it's fun to get attention. I'm very spoiled. I could not imagine being more spoiled than this position with MinnMax and stuff, of just having complete freedom thanks to people on Patreon. At the same time, it's like, it's you're spoiled, and then it's not like that's fueling a healthy part of yourself. You're just constantly hoping for a little bit more success somewhere nebulously for some reason.
No, I mean, we should spend as long as possible on this question. So
I know
when my YouTube channel popped off, in the vein of comments, it was like, that was immersion therapy in my addiction to reading the comments, was like reading every single comment that came in about it as the views climbed. And it totally broke me. After like 3 days, I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And now I don't do it anymore.
Really?
It's like I needed that, like, the faucet to fully open on me for me to like truly lose my interest in it.
It's amazing for you to live like 20 some years on this earth and be like, I know all the things that I don't like about me. And then you just read something that a stranger's written, and it's like, oh, there's a new thing. Like, I never thought of that until just now.
I didn't have a problem with my hairline until these YouTube viewers came along.
Oh, God. I do look like Chris Pratt.
There's so much here, but I mean, I guess if anyone ever wants to ask what's like the nice, because there are a lot of nice things. Like, that's why I do it. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't happy, because you can do, like, I know I'm like a big hippie where I'm like, I really think you can do anything. Like, I truly do believe that, which I know people might think is silly, but I feel like I've done it and I've seen people do it. Like, so like, find the thing that you want to be, I don't know, working hard over. Like, that sounds also really dark, but because there are nice moments where, like, working for myself, at the end of the day, I can take, a day off if I need it, and I can just sit around. And like the other day I just played like Deathloop at night and I just chilled. But like, that does come at a cost, I guess, is the thing. But yes, there's plenty of hard jobs. Like my dad immigrated here from Mexico. My mom worked at a factory for a lot of her time. While she worked, like, she had 12-hour days. Like, she'd have 12-hour days 5 days a week, and then a week off where it was like 2 days working. So like, there's hard stuff, but like, that's not relevant. Like, I don't know, people always bring that like, oh, it's hard. It was like, so what? Like, I don't know, you asked about this, so this is what I know. This is what y'all asked about.
This is our perspective on things. Yeah. All right, was that enough for you? Do you understand what it's like now, Jared Armeyer? It's everyone's secretly a little bit more miserable than you can imagine, but it's still pretty good, and you try really hard to keep things in perspective.
In the game industry.
I do feel like if you, I'm sorry, the name again, Jared Armeyer, if you could like be a fly on the wall during a lot of like game industry people meeting up, it is probably a lot more negative about almost everything than you could possibly imagine, which at times will drive you insane to be like, it's video games, everybody. But like, maybe there is just something more draining about this concept that I'm willing to admit. And maybe it is just that feedback component.
Yeah, I'm obscenely grateful for where I'm at. But there's always the food chain of like, I don't care about Jeff Bezos's problems. And then I talk about my problems to a friend and they're like, but it's still not having a real job.
Right.
And I say, you're right.
Yes, exactly.
This is all fake. Just that is fair.
Yeah. Hey, Ramses Garcia writes in, oh boy, and says, Philadelphia just passed Chicago as the country's third largest city. With Phoenix and Houston hot on Chicago's tail. I had a question. I thought it was like Phoenix just passed Philadelphia to be the fifth. Anyways, the point is, Ramses, would you rather live in a dying city where things start off expensive but get cheaper over time, or an upcoming city where things are happening and it starts cheaper but gets expensive over time?
For interest of this question, are we there for the rest of our lives? Do we have to stay there for the
let's say a good 10-year span? Yeah, but
do you want to live in a place with like gentrification or like?
yeah. Do you want booming or busting? I guess is kind of the overall deal. And Ramsey says, fun fact.
Dying.
Yeah, fun fact: California is fueling all of the city's growth around the country. All the people that can afford homes here, California population is not really affected. People dying cities or small towns flock to it. Rural areas in the Midwest is the one taking the hits. Interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like.
I mean, I live in a started off cheap, getting expensive place. Like Durham, North Carolina was, when I was born, like the crappy, dangerous cousin to college cities nearby. And now, has basically gentrified over the past 25 years to the point that now it's getting very expensive to live here. There are lots of kind of young professionals moving in, and people who have historically lived here for generations are being priced out of their homes.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we got a lot of good food here now, but it's like, it seems bad. I don't think it's it's a good course to be on.
Yeah, it is tough. Like being in Minneapolis since 2005, and kind of watching the arc here, I've always just been scared of, like, at some point, this is going to become the Austin. At some point, everyone's going to realize how great Minneapolis is, because I have enough people that have been here for a little bit that are just all in on Minneapolis, right?
Because the whole border of the U.S. fell into the ocean.
Right. I do feel like it's a great place to be in a lot of fronts. And I don't think there's been that crazy explosion into Minneapolis yet, which I'm still scared of. But obviously things have been getting ridiculously expensive and things are increasing here in a big way. I don't know whether I prefer that. Like my heart wants to be like, oh no, I would take the place that's getting cheaper over time. But I spend a lot of time in rural Minnesota, like, my hometown out there in New London, Minnesota. And like spending all those time just like driving through those towns that are just slowly dying. It's really a depressing vibe. And I don't know how much that would seep into your soul every day if you knew that, like, well, I'm staying in this town, but I can clearly see nobody else is. And there's more and more abandoned buildings on Main Street. This is so surreal. I don't know. Leo, which way you going, man?
Yeah, you got to start cheap so you have time to make your investments.
Oh,
get rich.
God,
Leo,
that makes more sense. This is why I'm broke. Okay.
Vader style. I don't know. Do you think you'll be in Minneapolis for the rest of your life, Leo?
Great cue. I love Minneapolis. There was certainly a point where I
never heard anyone say that.
You've never heard a truly great cue then.
I guess not. It's the first one.
Coming out of high school, I was like had a bit of that wanderlust, ready to see the rest of the world. Now I would be happy to be here the rest of my life if I were. I also have always been curious about living somewhere else and would love to try it, but Minneapolis has everything and it's a great sized city for me.
Yeah.
Like close
Leo,
to
you want to just swap? You want to just like move into each other's houses?
Life swap, wife swap. Here we go. Alex Britt writes in and says, hey, MinnMax, let's talk headphones. In headphones or earbuds, what are your features/designs you're looking for? Do you like earbuds that are in-ear or clip-on-ear, wireless versus corded? What kind of head bar do you like on headphones? Certain kind of nubbins that are must-haves? The point is just talk about headphones. Thank you, Alex. It goes on for a long time.
Like it's really long for no reason. AirPods. I'm a basic Apple person, man. The AirPods, it's dope. There's something, I love Apple's products because even though some of them can be, I guess, expensive, like the new iPhones, decent chunk of change. But it's like just a little bit expensive where you feel like bougier than you really are. It's kind of like when you get a Starbucks drink, right? The drink's actually like $2 to $4, but like you feel like a little luxurious. You're like, oh, I don't, coffee at home, you know?
Yeah.
So the AirPods give me that. Like, there's a luxury there. I'm like, oh, what, cables? No, too broke for my blood. It's all wireless, baby. It's all wireless.
But then my catch is when I'm like mowing the lawn or doing something loud, like mowing the lawn, I guess. Then I have like backup earbuds, whatever they are, that like have more of a seal or whatever, so I can actually cut it off. Because the AirPods are great. But
anything that goes in my ear, I don't want. Like, I don't want like a squishy part on an earbud, which is why I wish there were more alternatives to AirPods, because I like the design of it just kind of sits there.
Right.
And it's like, I guess you get better sound quality. Here's the honest truth about me. I'm listening to podcasts 98% of the time. And so it's like audio quality does not matter. and so it's just like, just give me something that kind of sits in there and it doesn't squish and it doesn't like get my earwax on it or whatever.
I've hated every in-ear earbud I've had in my life. Like, I always have to take a break after an hour because it hurts or whatever. But my AirPod Pros, I will forget they're in, which is like the ideal for a headphone.
The Pros.
It's got to be wireless, of course. I'm wandering all the time.
These Pros, should I get those? What are those all about?
Well, you've got your backup headphones that block more sound. The Pros, you just hold them for 3 seconds and it turns noise canceling on and off. I showed my girlfriend noise canceling when I got them because I was blown away by the feature. You put them in and you can just hear the world fade out. It takes a second as it like records it or whatever, and then it just goes down to nothing.
So it's just like
kind of scary
digital thing. Oh my God.
So, but yeah, then if you're going loud for a bike ride or whatever, you just turn it down to like not noise canceling mode, and then you can hear stuff.
Weird.
As easy as that.
Maybe I should check it out. Sassy Luchador writes in, says, hey, MinnMaxers, if you had to pick one person from the gaming industry, dead or alive, to hang out with for a whole day, who would it be? And what will you talk about?
Miyamoto, but I would pick him dead.
Miyamoto?
Version. Yeah.
Too soon.
I don't know. I've always wanted to play Mario Kart with Miyamoto, to do like an interview where we're also playing Mario Kart.
Okay. And he'd be like, I've never played Mario Kart. Please leave me alone, ma'am.
Yeah, this first time.
No, that is a good idea. The obvious example, of playing games with them. That is obviously the wrinkle. Because even like, I want to go, Tezuka or somebody, like the director of Link to the Past and Mario World, like he'd have so many crazy stories. I guess I'd also have to hang out with the translator. But if you just like watch them play the game or play some game together, I think that might be the good way to go for some of those old Japanese devs.
If two answers, both alive. One, Mr. Kojima, like just... I mean, it's like, it's a trope, but like, God, I just want to hang out with him just for the experience of like hanging out with him.
Nothing you could do would be cool enough for him. Like, if you honestly had a date with Kojima, first date, what would you do to try and make him think you were cool?
I would just say, hey, what are your favorite movies? And then he would talk for 5 hours.
I have literally
favorite movies. I don't need to speak for this.
I have literally been in the room when we did that on video with Dan Reichert in Japan, and it was the biggest just blank stare of a life. And Dan's like, what are your favorite action movies for this whole video? And he just stared blankly and then said, I like 2001. So just, I'd imagine it kind of off-put energy.
Well, in my head, the version of Kojima in my head, very cool, introduces me to fun celebrities. The other one, which I feel like is honestly achievable, maybe. I mean, he's not that big, but Davey Wreden. Like Mr. Stanley Parable Beginner's Guide guy, just seems cool, fun. I bet he would be a fun dinner conversation.
Did you watch that video pitch where it's him and Carla, formerly from Fulbright, for their Annapurna game? Like, that really made me laugh, where they just kept pouring that tea. Like, it's just a video with them talking about founding the studio, but it's them, Leo, just like pouring tea continuously and then shoving more and more tea bags in the teapot. Just some good physical tea comedy. I loved it.
I mean, you know about his podcast, right? I think I posted about it in the MinnMax Slack. He has a podcast called it's some like very kind of pretentious name, and it is just a reading a StarCraft novel, like 30 pages at a time, or maybe even less, and just pouring over it the way you would like a, dense literary text of just like every possible piece of the StarCraft novel.
I love it.
It's very funny.
I love it. Dan Reichert already did it with Read Play back at Game Informer with the Gears of War novel. But other than that, that sounds great. That sounds great. Toby Martin Right. Did everybody answer that one that wanted to answer that one?
I'm just going to say Tom Francis, the Gunpoint Heat Signature developer.
Oh,
I watched a lot of his game tutorials when I was trying to learn how to make games, and he seems like a chill bloke. I'd love to talk about game design with.
And that's somebody that you could just go get a beer with. You don't have to worry about what you're wearing, like this Kojima fraud. Anyways, no, I would love to hang out with Kojima as well.
Loved you Raw, that action movie, thanks. On your bad side.
I just feel like he'd be intimidating to hang out with. Like, doing interviews with him, you're on a mission. But if I had to try and convince him that I was a cool guy worth speaking to, no way. Toby Martin says, hey, Ben and the MinnMax crew. I was wondering if any of you have a least favorite objective/mission type in a game. Mine is either looking for some code or password in a big area or having to reach a place in a short set time. Good question.
Escort missions where the person you're escorting doesn't have the capacity to fight for themselves.
Yeah.
Or they're really, really dumb.
Yeah. I feel like it's been a while since I've had a frustrating escort mission.
The vibe of games, like, they can just not be killed now, I feel like.
Right.
If you have an ally with you, they don't let them die anymore because that's frustrating, or give you away in stealth or whatever.
Yeah, design has gotten smart and good is the takeaway, I think. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Well, somewhat.
Oh, what's not good, Leo?
What's not good? What came to mind? What came to mind for this question is something I did in the Avengers game recently, which was like a weekly challenge to kill enemies while you're in this mode of super mode or whatever, after you've used this attack with a heavy finisher. So like they have a long health bar and you have to time it so your last attack of this 5-button combo is the thing that kills them. And my God, that was a chore. It sucked everything I like out of that game right out. That was a bad objective.
Okay, there it is. This is rough. Jake Zielsdorf writes in with a very specific question. How would you describe the difference between cheesy, corny, and cringe?
Queso.
Yeah.
Salsa.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the cringe dressing? Mayonnaise?
Yeah, how dare you?
I hope you like cringe dressing.
Is like when it's
relish.
Yes, when it's like heartfelt and cliche, like
okay.
So it's cheesy. Corny is like a dad joke. It's like like that's so like it's a little tacky. But no one really cares too much, and some people try to make it their whole personality. That's corny. And then cringe is like it's so bad that I get secondhand embarrassment from it. Those are the definitions.
So could something be cringe because it's so cheesy or so corny? That's so corny, it's cringe?
If it's badly executed. I think.
Yeah, I think that badly executed is kind of, and also I think of cheesy and corny being more things that happen in media, and cringe, I guess, is more real life, though there's also, because it's like cheesy is like when there's a real sappy love scene that feels kind of like because they needed a love scene. It's like that's a little cheesy.
Terminator 1 love scene. Yeah.
Oh, the best.
Yeah.
But cringe is like, I don't know, you see a TikTok video of like, a high schooler doing something dumb and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
Though I think cringe can also be people attempting to like write for a situation that they don't know about. I mean, I say this as someone who loves the Life is Strange games, but like Life is Strange dialogue,
yes,
swerves between cheesy and cringe with wild abandon, and I think it works, but it's like the cheesy is when it's like working, and the cringe is like, wrong, you owe me hella cash, which is a line that you hear multiple times in Life is Strange 1.
Etymology of cheesy, for all the nerds out there, say meaning cheap or inferior, attested from 1896 in U.S. student slang, along with cheese, a quote, ignorant, stupid person. British slang 19th century, cheesy was fine/showy, probably.
Now, big cheese.
Big cheese.
Would refer to the person in charge. Was that a derogatory term? Big cheese?
I bet. The big stupid guy.
The big stupid guy.
Some suggest
like we just say now.
Yeah, exactly. But it's weird that cheesy and corny, they're both foods, right? Whereas corny, from the 1930s, from an earlier sense rustic / appealing to country folk. So it's corny because people in the corn-filled Midwest would like it?
That actually kind of tracks, because not to start something really big, but, you know, the etymology of like words and how we determine what is and isn't like pristine and professional often does trace back to class origins. So that would make sense.
There it is.
Yeah, maybe it's like New Yorkers talking about like, oh, you know, flyover state people, you think these puns are funny. That's corny.
Sure. And now look at them. Now they're begging us for more puns. Chris Cuevas.
On the rise.
That's right. MinnMax, everybody. Chris Cuevas writes in, check out New Show Plus. Every week you get to choose the name of the game. Chris Cuevas writes in, hey, MinnMax crew, and hello, Jacob, as well. Do you prefer in-game day-night cycles, predetermined time of day, or day-night cycles that change with your real-world time? As a kid, I thought Pokemon Gold and Silver having a real-time day-night cycle was the coolest thing, because I actually had to go secretly stay up late looking for Pokemon that only appeared at night. That does seem fantastic.
But then you just get night forever. You know, it's like if you can only play games at like 8 o'clock, then it's like, hope you like a dark game.
Right. I hope you like the 5 o'clock music in Animal Crossing New Horizons, because somehow that was always the period where I would play it over and over and over again. It's very good. Look, luckily it's amazing.
It's like, oh my God. Like, the non-clock one. I think the clock is cool. Like, and I think it has its place. Like, I guess it would feel awkward if Animal Crossing went the different route, like the in-game clock. But as someone that streams that game at the same hour all the time, you know, and then when I do, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to play off stream. So that'll usually be at night. And I'm like, can't see anything out here. Like, I'm just decorating in the shadows. It's kind of difficult.
Yeah, I mean,
I really like the Spider-Man, like the recent Spider-Man tactic of like missions take place at certain times of day, right? And then when you beat it, you can kind of choose what time of day it is. You know, but it's like, I like it being like, this is a dark part in the story. We're going to make it raining. Like, I like kind of the world having a resonance with whatever you're doing.
And I'm trying to remember, how do they manage that in that game again? Do they have like a transition scene to just like cut to a wide shot of the city, changing time of day if you go there? Well, I guess, okay, so it always, I think it's always ends
like
the mission.
It'll be in cutscenes, and then they're like the weather stations or whatever that you do those little experiments in, and you can go there and change it. And I think you just walk out and it's that time of day. Okay,
but hang on. I have a vague memory. Isn't it something though, like if it's a mission at night and they want you to be set up in the day for the next mission, it'll be like in a cutscene, like reverse shot. You'll just see the time of day slowly transition quickly back. This is a vague memory, but I don't know. I think I'm with you, Jacob. That seems like the way to go. I think like Deathloop feels so unique for kind of being so simple about just, there's just 4 times a day you'll get to experience it. There's not a ticking clock anywhere here.
One of these fancy 9:30 a.m.s.
Right, exactly.
Morning.
That's right.
I love a day-night cycle, but in some games it's like just distracting. Like, why doesn't my dude ever sleep? It's been weeks.
Yeah. Solo writes in and asks, what was the first game you finished with a non-lethal option? Did you go pacifist all the way? Did it change how you play games after that? Okay, bye. Goodbye, Solo. Come back, though.
I did Mirror's Edge for that achievement with no guns.
Oh.
So I still never played it with guns. I still don't know what it's really like.
That's interesting. Was it really hard to play that way?
It was pretty hard, but it felt like, you know, a normal amount of difficulty for a game. But I love pacifist runs. I don't know if that's what got me on them, but I'm very interested in them, in games that allow them.
Did you play?
Go ahead.
JV.
I was having this conversation with JV earlier this week, but Dishonored, the original, I played that pacifist and I did not enjoy it. And it was like, I knew from the beginning, it was like, well, killing people is bad in this game and you'll get the bad ending. And so I didn't play with any of the fun tools because they were all lethal, and I just slowly like choked out everyone in every level. But to unconsciousness, not to death.
Smart.
And I wish I didn't, because I didn't have a good time with that game. And I think if I like played, I like Deathloop, where it's just like kill everyone, it doesn't matter.
Right. Play your way really now. Yeah. By the way, I'm realizing that weird reverse shot where the time of day thing was changing in cutscenes, that's in Red Dead 2. I remember it was like during missions, if they had to transition where the mission is at night, then like the cutscene before, they like quickly try and change it and try and hide it, but sometimes it's really drastic. Also, I mean, Leafy on the Backstage Pass tier, watching us live, says, yes, Hanson, you're correct. There's a wide shot of the city in Spider-Man that changes the time of day. So full recap there. Nick Beatty writes in and says, hello, Ben and Cohorts. I've been catching up on the Blank Check podcast lately. Jacob Geller, you're obsessed with that podcast too, right?
Oh, to an unhealthy degree.
I've talked to Kyle about this. Like in the MinnMax Council podcast, we talked about the Blank Check podcast, and we're both kind of freaked out by how into it we are. Like it has gotten obsessive.
It's a podcast that it's like, I don't know anyone who is casually interested in it. Like almost everyone I know who listens to it, it is their favorite podcast.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's consumed our lives. And those three guys are now my best friends, whether they know it or not. Two of them have been on this show and they don't even know that they're my best friends. Anyways, lately, they've been wondering, Nick here, if there's such a thing as a blank check within the games industry. In other words, is there a game director or studio that after achieving massive success is given the opportunity to work on a game that they're really passionate about? Sometimes those checks clear, sometimes they bounce baby. Personally, I can see this with Miyamoto and the Pikmin franchise, but I'm interested in what you all have to say on this.
Death Stranding, right?
I think it's just Death Stranding. It's like it's the most obvious blank check you could possibly think of. The other one that this is a credit to AJ Moser, who was talking about this question with Spore.
Great.
I think Spore is a big blank check game.
Yes, it is excellent. I also think of Deep Cut, but after Civilization's success, Sid Meier made a game that was all about music, and it was called CPU Bach. That was another one where it's like, well, after Civ, do whatever you want, dude, we're set. And then he made this game with a very weird title that everybody immediately forgot about. But yeah, Death Stranding. But the weird thing is, like, I'm still amazed by the fact that Death Stranding was released within a couple of years. Like, that seems like that could have been, here's $200 million. And I don't know anything, but it's probably more like, hey, here's 90 million and actually a decent production timeline somehow. It's just amazing that that wasn't stuck in development hell, sucking in money.
For sure.
But also, I mean, the big one is Rockstar. I mean, they're in full blank check status at this point after GTA 3, and now especially
I just don't, even though, I mean, Red Dead 2 obviously takes big swings in terms of its gameplay and story, but it's like, those don't feel like blank checks to me because it's like they know it's gonna be huge. You know, like making a sequel to Red Dead Redemption is not like make whatever you want. It's like, you know, make a game that we know will sell $1 billion.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. So it has to be like that bold vision. This is what I've always wanted to do. This is my Tomorrowland for Brad Bird. That's what you're looking for there. Yeah.
I was thinking about the Wonderful 101 by Platinum, which I know not a lot of people have played, but that game feels incredibly expensive. I think is kind of like Nintendo is like, here is a whole bunch of money, Platinum, like make us a big crazy game, and like it's very inaccessible. You know, like it's not an easy game to play. It is really kind of off-putting at the beginning. And so to have like that much money put into something that specific and hard to play feels kind of blank checky to me.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. All right. The time has come. Ding, ding. Question of the week. What do y'all think?
The downsides of working in games.
Yeah, what are we doing here
for half an hour?
Yeah, the one that was half of this podcast by a mile. Congratulations, Jared R. Meyer. We'll ship you out a wonderful prize, the Pathless double vinyl soundtrack from our friends at I'm8bit. Thank you so much. Now it's time for something that we personally like to call Get a Load of This. Leo's so excited, he's hopping around the room. He's ready to go. All right, Leo, take it away, dude.
Get a load of this. Ping de Guoba.
What?
PUBG snacks I got from the United Noodle near my house.
What? It's a frying pan on the front?
Yeah, the other one had a bulletproof vest on it. They went for the frying pan. Crisp. A present first, choose best, enjoyment, good taste.
Okay, you gonna crack it open?
What are they?
Did you enjoyment good taste it?
We're about to taste test live. The
But
flavor is
some good crinkle in there.
Secret Min snacks.
Yeah, everybody in the Backstage Pass is furious at you, Leo, for trying to take Surreal's seat. They're outraged at the idea of anybody else tasting something on MinnMax content other than our boy Surreal.
I'm gonna do it.
Oh no, here he goes!
You can see the shape here.
It's a square.
It was kind of
It's like
a
a
weird, like a wheat
thin.
Yeah, right? Okay. It's because we both played before your eyes.
Long cheese it.
Yeah. All right.
Here goes.
It's going in his mouth. Where are we dropping, boys? Into his mouth, that is.
That's a whole different game, I feel like.
Oh. How you
This
doing?
is yummy.
Man.
It's yummy.
Okay.
Winner. What's the dinner?
Dude, this is like corny. What's happening right now? Corny. It's leaning on, it could go cringe depending on what the next joke is, but.
And there's chip is corny because it's made with corn flour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so you'd go out of your way to buy him again, Leo?
Probably not, but I will finish this bag.
All right, way
Can
to
you
go.
give me where is it? Give me something that's better than and something that's worse than. Like, where's that kind of land?
Worse than a Cheeto, better than a Cheetos puff.
Perfect.
You don't like Cheeto Puffs?
Oh, I would reverse that order. Okay, yeah,
on.
Janet and I are aligned here.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. Actually, I would put Cheeto Puffs above regular Cheetos, but definitely below Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Like regular
Well,
Cheetos,
then-
you could throw that in the trash. It's fine.
Sorry, my rating was not very helpful for you.
Yeah, this is outrageous.
Yeah. Apparently,
That's
we
awesome.
all when you have different opinions, it doesn't always help to know this information.
Hey,
For someone, that means something, though. So thank you.
get a load of this, everybody. There's this article that every dork site wrote about, and everybody tries to make a mountain out of a molehill with every Star Wars tidbit. It's always just barely anything at all. It's like, J.J. Abrams addresses criticism of Rise of Skywalker. And it's like, oh, I got to hear this. Then you read the article, and he said ambiguously, like, sometimes people aren't fans of my movies. It's like, what? That's outrageous. So I was hesitant about this one, but Marcia Lucas, who's George Lucas's ex-wife and also an editor. She edited Taxi Driver, American Graffiti, and the original Star Wars trilogy. She was in this book and tore Star Wars a new one. She says, quote, "It seems to me that Kathy Kennedy and J.J. Abrams don't have a clue about Star Wars. They don't get it. And J.J. Abrams is writing these stories. When I saw that movie where they kill Han Solo, I was furious. Absolutely positively, there was no rhyme or reason to do it. I thought, you don't get the Jedi story. You don't get the magic of Star Wars. You're getting rid of Han Solo. They have Luke disintegrate. They killed Han Solo. They killed Luke Skywalker. And they don't have Princess Leia. And they're spitting out movies every year. And they think it's important to appeal to a woman's audience. And now they get their main character to be this female who's supposed to have Jedi powers, but we don't know how she got Jedi powers or who she is. It sucks. The storylines are
I
terrible.
love seeing Luke get bit by that force bug. That was my favorite part.
Did she then say, I've taken the red pill and you should too?
It really feels like it's going that direction. So this is obviously before Rise of Skywalker came out that she gave this quote, but it sucks. The storylines are terrible, just terrible. You can quote me on this. J.J. Abrams, Kathy Kennedy, talk to me. It's like, holy
Wow.
God, Marcia Lucas. All right. Everyone's eager for a job in Hollywood.
Hey, Marcia.
Okay, Marcia. Janet, you got to get a load of this?
Yeah, get a load of this. This is radically shifting gears. I also have like a product thing to share. I bought these a while ago, but I feel like people don't really know about them, so I'd like to highlight them. I don't know, are y'all familiar with the Scrub Daddy sponge?
No, ma'am.
It's like a real good sponge. It's a
Shark
good
Tank
sponge,
product.
so not sponsored yet. But it's a really good sponge. Like it has like a whole gimmick where it can get like soft or it can be like hardened based on the temperature of the water, and it just is a good sponge. So I've used them for a while. But on their website, they have Halloween shapes. So they have like, you can get like a little pumpkin sponge, little ghost sponge, little Franken sponge. Frankensponge's monster. I don't know, whatever, right?
Okay,
They're cute.
yeah.
So now I got them. They're like $15 for a pack of 3. A little on the pricier side. It's the Starbucks coffee of sponges, but I feel better about the few times I do actually wash a dish because I'm cleaning it with like a little pumpkin sponge. So there you go.
Sponges, everybody. Get a load of them. I love it. Jacob Geller?
Get a load of this.
Yes, sir.
On Saturday, September 25th, starting at 2 p.m., I will be doing a 24-hour charity live stream for the Bail Project. Woo!
Nice. What is that?
The Bail Project is a charity that basically pays people's bail funds, because wouldn't you know it, bail is an incredibly predatory system that traps people in cycles of poverty, even when they have not done anything wrong or have nonviolent offenses. So the cool thing about bail funds is that you pay them, that person gets to not go to jail, and then the money comes back out and just goes back and pays someone else's bail. So it's like, you know, your money goes incredibly far when you give to a bail fund, because it just repeats so long as that bail is returned, which it often is.
Yeah, so we can have a link below for this, but if people wanted to watch your stream, what should they do?
So it will be on twitch.tv/Jacob Geller. I'll be playing, it is Sword Stream 2021, because we all love games with swords, so I'll be playing Dark Souls, Katana Zero, Ghost Runner, Hyper Light Drifter, other games with swords. It'll be a real good time. There will be lots of guests, including people on this very podcast, perhaps. So come through. It'll be fun. We're doing giveaways. We got stuff from I Am 8-Bit, famed sponsor of MinnMax.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome. Love it.
Saturday, starting at 2 p.m. and going till Sunday at around 2 p.m. or whenever I collapse. We'll see.
Sounds awesome. Congratulations ahead of time. That sounds like a blast. From the community, we have a get a load of this channel in the Discord. It's the best place for news. Shazira posted this Game Rant article today with the headline, "Gas Station Simulator is outselling Deathloop on Steam." Apparently people are very into this gas station simulator, and I don't know if we should even be surprised by these twists and turns in the game industry recently, but turns out for success on Steam, you go for a gas station simulator before you go for a Deathloop. So fun, wild times. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching and listening, everybody. Let's see, Jacob Geller charity stream, link in the description this Saturday. Please check that out. Let's see, we have MinnMax Council, our big call-in episode. This is the Patreon exclusive podcast, but if you're at that $20 tier on Patreon, you can call in and podcast with us. And the end of this month, normally it's every Sunday, but I'll be out of town, so it'll be on Monday, the 27th, September 27th at 12 p.m. Central. We'll let you know on Twitter and all that stuff, but if you support us at the $20 tier, you can call in and podcast with us about any topic under the sun. We're legally obligated to answer all questions. We look forward to hearing from you. Also, thanks to everybody in the Better Quest channel in the Discord for participating in the community goal and sharing beautiful pictures of new meals that they've been cooking. It's a fantastic collection of meals in there. You know what else, Leo?
What?
We have two exciting announcements. Do you want one that starts with a D or one that starts with an H?
H.
Well, guess what, everybody? House Hunter Rise is coming back, baby! This is our most beloved New Show Plus show where we take a look at bizarre Zillow listings with a twist, because it's coming back if we hit our goal on Patreon. We're trying to hit 2,700 supporters. So if you're one of those people on YouTube that's always screaming with every episode of New Show Plus, why isn't this House Hunter Rise? Bring back House Hunter Rise. We will bring it back for a 3-episode miniseries if we hit a goal of 2,700 supporters on Patreon. So it's a great time to jump in. We have a fun month coming up ahead, and we'd appreciate the support. Also, in that fun month, Leo, it's been a little while, but I'd argue it's about time we do a deepest dive, yes?
Yes.
How about we make it the deepest dive? Yes?
Okay.
Well, here we go. The next deepest dive, everybody, is happening in early October, October 8th. That's right. You guessed it, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing the deepest dive on Metroid Dread. Jen, you didn't do the echo there.
Oh, sorry. Dread.
That's right.
It's space, so it takes longer for some reason.
In space, it takes longer for you to hear you scream.
Yeah,
That's right.
somehow.
We'll be doing a 2-part game club discussion, so we look forward to playing along with that game with the community and then dissecting everything about it, creating the best, most thorough discussion about Metroid Dread on the internet. So thanks so much for your support. If you support us at any tier on Patreon, you can submit a question or comment for us to read off during the deepest dive in Metroid Dread, or if you want to unlock the podcast version of that full discussion instead of just watching it on YouTube, you can at that $5 tier over on Patreon, so we'd appreciate the support. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Jacob Geller, you know who's great?
Who's that?
Thank you for being on this episode of the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Almost as good as the entire thank you crew who supports us at the $50 tier because they keep this whole thing running. I'm talking about Fixture Gaming's Fixture S1, Fatal X Blade on YouTube, I Am 8-Bit, Ludwig Roque, Zachary Pligge, Andrew Uerkwitz, Andrew Vala, BeatenDownBrian, PrettyGoodPrinting.com, Mirko Arico-Torreno, Jawarhello, Mark Seliga, Best of the Rest Podcast, John Higby, Call Me By Your Game Podcast, Clint Farley, Drew Waranis, Dan Villone, Ted Ryser in particular. Thank you, Ted. Steve Bamdad, Purebred number 6, Clemens Zobel, Starkiller, Kris, Spider-Dan, SpiralInYourEyes, Preetham Yarlagadda, Tomas, and me accidentally bumping my own mic. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate it. Jacob Geller, Janet, Leo, thank you for being here. We'll see you next time, everybody. Be good, have fun, let's go.